If we could, I'd like to call together the order of the meeting of July the 26th of the Horry County Solid Waste Authority. Invocation will be by Mr. Berry, and Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Johnson.
Let us pray. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for another beautiful day that you allow us to assemble together here, take care of the business of the Solid Waste Authority. We ask you, Lord, that you put your loving arms around each and every one of the employees, keep them safe, return them home safe at the end of the day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get to the approval of the agenda, I have one request from the chair. In talking to staff, it would help if you want to speak, speaking as often as you want to, but please be recognized first. We have some new staff members who don't recognize everybody's voice, and sometimes they miss the first part of what you're going to say if they don't know you're going to speak. So I ask you kindly, if you would, please be recognized before you speak. Speak as often as you like, just be recognized first. I ask for an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The agenda is passed. I ask for approval of the minutes of the June 28th regular meeting.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any additions or deletions? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, it passes. The June 28th annual meeting. I ask for a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any additions or deletions? If not, please signify by saying aye for your approval.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. There are no requests for public input, so we will move to department. And Ms. Murphy, you're up first.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My report begins on page 16, and we begin on page 17 with an update of the fiscal year 2023 DHEC grant request that we put in. In April, we made a request to DHEC for grants totaling $307,175. We were notified in July, this month, of the grants that we did receive. There were some modifications to what we requested. With regard to the waste tire grant, we were already aware that the full grant would not be awarded because the state tire fund has been depleted over the past couple of years. So everyone who requested grant funding received a reduced amount. We received 8% of the contractor costs that we requested. In addition, there was no other funding on the waste tire grant awarded to any county. So you received contractor costs, but nothing else that you requested. The used oil grant, this is the first year that I recall it being limited to how much you can request with regard to used oil equipment. We requested equipment to update 4 recycling centers, and we were awarded for 3, which was this year's limit on how many you could request equipment for. The solid waste grant for public education is the only grant that actually went up a little, by $750. The professional development funding that was granted under that grant was done so because they didn't grant any under the waste tire grant. So they had additional funds there that they could give. And then the last grant, the solid waste general recycling organics grant, that was the specialty grant this fiscal year. They were only going to be awarding 5. And it was a grant that they wanted you to focus in on food waste, recovery, any type of composting programs. And it was really directed towards those who had nothing in place at the moment. We fortunately had both. Didn't say we didn't ask for funding, we were going to ask, but we were not fortunate enough to receive any under that grant. So in total, we received $126,457 for this fiscal year in grants. Now, we'll move on to our spotlight on environmental awareness. We were able to recognize a local business, the Crooked Oak Tavern, which is located downtown Conway on Laurel Street, as a recipient of our SEED program. They were established in 2018, and they are committed and dedicated to being an eco-friendly restaurant that is reducing their environmental impact. They're currently expanding their facility into the old Abrams department store downtown. And a lot of the material that's in that particular building, they're repurposing and reusing as a part of the new construction to limit how much waste is being brought out here. They're one of the few restaurants that don't offer to-go as an option when you come to the restaurant. If you have food left over when you finish your meal, they will absolutely give you a carry-out container, which is biodegradable. But it's not an option that you walk and say, I want a to-go order. That's not how they operate, because again, they're trying to limit how much waste they're generating as a part of what they're doing. Very, very nice atmosphere. If you have the opportunity to stop by, please do. And a great staff. But we were honored to recognize them. Next, our recycling center of the quarter. We recognized the North Myrtle Beach Recycling Center. Over the last 6-8 months, we had a staffing change, and our new staff they're doing a superb job. They are dedicated to making sure that the services offered to our residents are done as efficiently as possible, and they are all about maintaining their center as one of the best looking one that we have. If you use North Myrtle Beach, Karen Richards is our full-time employee there. John LaPresti is usually there as a part-time site attendant, but they're doing an excellent job. Last but not least, our Clark Green Hand recipient for the month of June was Mr. Josh Lynn. He was here, a regular recycler here at the Landfill Recycling Center. He has a great big old smile because he was really excited about his prize pack. So we still get a kick out of doing this for our residents. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to try and answer. If not, that's what I have.
Any questions from Murphy? Thank you, Murphy.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Finance and Administration. Murphy.
Good morning.
Morning.
Financial reports begin on page 25. This is, now of course, not our complete end of the year financial reports, as you know, because we are, like I said, finishing up the year. We have the auditors that will be here mid-August. I think they're going to be here on August 16th and 17th to kind of complete our audit for the year. So a little bit early this year, but we're excited about being able to have them in here a little bit earlier, get things done so we can get things over to the county a little bit earlier. But for the most part, this is the majority of our end of the year reports. You won't see too many changes in our revenue or our expenses. As you can see at the top of the page 25, we do have a new designated fund. As you remember, the capital contingency fund that we set up for the $1 million. As you can see, our tipping fees over last year, the same time, are up almost 10%, 9.59%, which is great. As you can see, our solid waste and our mixed construction well exceeded budget, and yard waste was just slightly below budget, which is great. As you can see, the recyclable sales, which we reported on all year long, were absolutely phenomenal at 242.11% of budget, which is great. And as you can see, the landfill airspace savings, we had 50.91 days with the CD processing facility. Last year was 63.84, so just slightly below. With the materials recycling facility, it is 92.55 days. That's up a little bit over last year, which was 91.58. And the store is almost exactly where it was last year. So again, great job with all of that. On page 27 is our income statement. And as you can see again, what a tremendous year we've had. As you can see, for the month, we had revenue over expenses of $268,898.73, and year-to-date of $6,258,365.67, which is outstanding compared to, looking at what we faced this year with all of the increases in fuel and parts. Like I said, I can't say enough. And of course, we were able to move $1 million of that to that capital contingency fund, so we've been very fortunate. As you can see, our revenue overall at 114% of budget, which is great. And of course, I can't say enough about our expenses being well below at 92.97% of budget. I can't thank staff enough. They knew what a tight year we had. And like I said, they held everything, and they've done a tremendous job. It takes all of us doing it together, and they were outstanding. I think we're going to face, of course, still some tough things again this year, so we'll continue to watch it just as closely as we did this past year. The only other thing I have for you is on page 34, just kind of taking a look at where our tonnages kind of ended up as compared to last year. As you can see, our solid waste is up 2.25% over last year, and our mixed construction is up 18.53%, which is, like I said, a lot. Like I said, we all know with the construction going on, hopefully we'll continue to see some of that continue to stay up. I know Mike's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the recycling prices and things, but like I said, I'll answer any questions you have. Like I said, just a reminder, we do have the audit, so I'll hopefully have a financial report to you probably in September on the final figures for the audit.
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next, operation and planning, Mr. Bassett.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I want to give y'all a little update on the landfill. We did get our inspection on July 8th. Everything went well on the inspection. We definitely had a lot of rain out here in the last few weeks. We got almost 4 inches in a matter of about 3.5 hours. So we definitely get a lot of rain. It's causing some washouts and stuff, but we're working on those currently to get those repaired. We're looking to get inspected, next month, or the first or second week of the month. Sometimes she'll show up, give us an inspection. So we're definitely working towards trying to get those repairs done before she gets here. On page 44, we've already had to do a shipment in July of household hazardous waste. And we've sent out about 17.2 tons of HHW, with 13 of that being just paint alone. And if we didn't use paint for alternative daily cover, it would be, the paint would be 90% of the whole thing. We used a lot of, when we get 5 gallons of paint in, we use it to put on our alternative daily cover to help seal the landfill at night. So it's, and it's approved by DA. So we do all that, so that gets rid of a lot of that paint, but there's a lot of paint out there.
Mike, are you limited to use latex or enamel or?
It has to be latex.
Has to be latex,
It has
okay.
to be latex paint. Water-based paint has to be all water-based.
Okay,
That's
that's good.
In June, we saw a decrease in the amount of recyclables. going to the MERP by 8.29%, compared to the same time period last year. And so those were down. Our MERP sales on page 47, as we anticipated that the market was going to change, it is definitely changing. Our buyer that bought it this month was not able to get his order shipped. And so we ended up with about 40 loads of material that we'll have before we do our pricing on the 5th of next month. Our original price we got on the 5th of July was $170 a ton. They got about 15 loads, and they got about 15 loads they couldn't take no more. It's coming out of Canada. So we had to rebid it. We had to spread it among 3 different companies, ranging from, for five loads, we got $170. For 20 loads, we got $115. And, the other 5 loads, we got $123. So we kind of spread it out among the companies. We're being told that the cardboard market is heading south, that they don't know where it's going to end up at, but during the next 2 to 3 months, they're looking at getting about below 100 again. PET, we've been having a problem getting rid of PET. We have 6 loads, which is rarity for PET. You gotta remember 30 days ago, we was getting close to $2,000 a ton for it. I sold it for $260 a ton. So, of course, your most stable one is still aluminum. It's always been aluminum as long as I've been in this business. Aluminum second again. And they're still up there around 2,000. So, office paper's still holding out pretty good. The last load of office paper we sold was about $150 higher than the prior time. But it's becoming to be less and less office paper. If we didn't pick it up, I don't think we'd have any at all. If we didn't do curbside service picking it up. But we did. So, but the market's checking itself up. Typically, it was in November you get those checkups. Last year was an abnormal year. But Jen and I talked about it at the first of the year. You know, we did almost, I think, $5-6 million in revenue at the MERP last year. And this year, we cut that way back in our budget, and our kids still a little uneasy about it. So, based on the price markets. Any questions on that? Driver of the month, Blake Stanley, with GFL, is who they picked for the driver of the month. That. That's who the employees do. So, we are, in the city recycling facility doing good. They took in 1,750 tons last month. That's a good month. Gotta remember 2 or 3 years ago, we were doing about 600 to 700 a month. We finally got it up. Josh, the guys running it over there, Josh is doing a good job. With him and the scale house working together, they get the material into the mill. Any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Bessie?
Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes sent you a notice this past month about odor this past month on the hill. Has it been unusual this month?
Say that again?
Odor on the hill.
No, we've not had any problem with those that I'm aware of, not this year. Well, I mean, when you come in, you'll smell something sometimes. I'm gonna say it's 100% no. But when the board approved the budget to expand that system and we focused on odor, they've done a tremendous,
Well, that's what I was,
tremendous job.
that's what I had thought, and I was wanting to make sure that we weren't having that.
I can't remember the last time I got a call from anybody about it.
That's great.
Not saying that we won't, but we work on it on a daily basis.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I just like to say, yeah, I rode through here with all that rain, and I was expecting to smell something, but it was fine. I mean,
It was fine when you,
Yeah.
I misinterpreted your
Yeah,
message.
well, yeah, it was okay.
I think the thing that did it was the C&D, the flares we put on the C&D.
Yeah.
That changed that whole when they came up with that, I mean, you know, we're the only one in the state that got them on a CMP landfill.
Yeah, it's nothing like it used to be in.
When you get that,
past,
when you
yeah.
get that gypsum board in there and it starts decomposing, it's tough. And they took it off.
Great.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Next, we have Executive Director, Mr. Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first thing on our agenda is solar panels, and Mr. Ed Marr made a developed white paper on this, and he will present it. I must say that at the convention at the beach that some of us attended a month ago, solar panels did come up. Someone asked DHEC the question about solar panels, and DHEC has no answer at this point in time, and Mike spoke up in front of the whole convention and said, what does the Solid Waste Authority do? And Mike said, I tell people to call DHEC. So, I think Ed did a great job in putting this together, so he will present.
Good morning. Just as Mr. Knight was talking about, solar panels now don't really have a consistent message across the country. Mr. Johnson provided an article from Los Angeles, I believe, talking about the detriments to solar panels and the things that we're going to have to face. So we did some cursory research just to give you an idea about what we may be facing as we go forward. Just to give you some background information, depending on the articles that you read, solar panels are going to last anywhere from 20 to 35 years. And a lot of that depends on the technology change. Most of the time, you're going to change a solar panel if it reaches its end of life, if it's been damaged in the storm, or if new technology comes out and you want to replace them to get a more efficient unit. So those are the times. As technology improves, more and more panels may be exchanged out. About 70% of the solar panels that are in use today came into place about 5 years ago. Before that, solar panels really were kind of hit and miss. They started in the early 2000s, but it's been in the most recent years that they've really taken off. Recycling right now appears to be the preferred method by both the regulators and those that are studying the issue. What are we going to do with them? Are they going to be landfill? Are they going to be considered hazardous waste? How are we going to manage these materials? So depending on the panel that you're looking at, theoretically, there should be very little, if any, hazardous waste materials in there. About 99% of the panel is non-hazardous, so it's being considered a solid waste at this point. That's not to say that certain panels don't have hazardous constituents in there, like cadmium, lead, silver, and things of that nature, but it's in a very small trace amount. Right now, theoretically, 95% of the panel itself can be recycled. It's glass, aluminum, copper, silver, and those kinds of things. Problem is, the recycling technology isn't there to separate the materials effectively. There's layers, it's like a sandwich, and it's all stuck together, so separating the materials out becomes a bit problematic. And if you look at the numbers, Mike's report about the recycling process here is very good. We generate great revenue. Unfortunately, recycling a solar panel is about 10 times as expensive as the materials you're going to pull out of the material. Right now, they say it's about $30 to recycle a solar panel, and you're only going to get $3 worth of material back out of it. So, right now, the estimates are by 2030, anywhere from 200,000 to a little over 1 million tons are going to come into the waste stream across the country. By 2050, that number is going to be 86 million tons. So it's going to be used more and more. The technology is coming online, it's being implemented across the country in greater and greater quantities. Again, the Georgia Professional Standards Commission is one of the groups that looked at this issue, and they came out with their TCLP testing of some of the most hazardous components of the cadmium telluride, and those did not have any hazardous materials. It wasn't considered a hazardous waste. They passed the TCLP test. So therefore, right now, again, it doesn't look like they're going to be a hazardous material, but again, it depends on the state you're in. If you look on page 60, I guess it would be 62, is a list of the 11 states in the country so far that have done something about solar panels. There isn't very many that have even looked at this issue, and of course it's probably going to end up like e-waste has been here, when the glut comes, that's when we're gonna deal with it. And right now, the only thing that's gonna help protect from the solar panel or dealing with the solar panel, everybody's assumption is that there's gonna be, have to be some kind of government intervention, either through producer responsibility laws, take-back laws, recycling laws, something that's gonna be driven by the government to force these materials out of the waste stream and out of our disposal facilities. And then the last page of the report is if you go to DHEC's website, their information. Again, as Mr. Knight pointed out, they don't really have any direction for us as yet. There's no regulation in place.
On this page?
Yes, sir. And, so right now, our position is, what we believe we should do is not accept them until DHEC comes out with something. We don't want to find out years down the road that they are hazardous and they are causing us problems. And we've been accepting them the whole time. So right now, I believe our position is going to be, let's not accept them. Let's wait for DHEC to come up with some sort of regulation to make our decision. Yes, sir.
Should we go ahead and get in touch with that facility in Spartanburg? Just in case we do have someone that comes in with a truckload or something, and then we got a game plan, kind of like we do with the e-waste?
Clean Lights, that
Clean Lights, I mean, we got 3 or 4 people here, it says in South Carolina and North Carolina, so, I mean, do we need to be preemptive and kind of get it? Basically, what we do, we got different trucking people on our webpage, instead of us telling somebody to take them there. This is on the DHEC webpage, and we're just gonna encourage people to call DHEC.
Yeah.
And find out what they say about solar panels, and if they got a recommendation where it goes and how to package them. Years ago, the Solid Waste Authority voted not to take asbestos here at our landfill. There's certain, you got to bag it, you got to do certain things to it, but the board decided not to take it for the simple reason that if you ever get into mining the landfill, you don't know where it's located. So we do not take asbestos, and DHEC will tell you, I think Georgetown County takes it, and some of the other counties, landfills takes it. But we don't even advise people who to go get a dumpster can for. They can put it on our webpage and go on the webpage and pick and choose that way. And they have to request to be placed on the webpage. So we're gonna just kind of leave it up to DX to advise them where to take them.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
We learned at the conference that the only way to find out about the contents is to trace the serial number. Until there's a process that determines exactly what the content is, that's a policy we need to keep, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Is there any discussion with DHEC and the power companies that are using solar panels as what they're gonna do with them? For example, Santee Cooper has all of these solar farms, and you know these panels are gonna have to be, replaced at some point in time. Is there not the conversation that we're having with, or they're having with these companies about how they're gonna dispose of them and who's gonna be responsible for them?
Well, at least at this point, it's not a regulated material by DHEC, so there is no answer to that yet. If you look though in that section that lists the different states, those are the facilities that they're primarily looking at. They aren't looking at the residential or the consumer level solar panel generator, they're looking at solar farm materials. And in most instances, when they get a permit for a solar farm, they also have to have dollars available so that at the end of life, they have outlined their financial assurity so that the materials are handled in the correct manner. But that's for the larger solar farms, you'll see in most of the regulations, that's what they address because those are the larger volume issues that they're gonna be handling, not the 10 or 15 panels that are in
Yeah, I
somebody's
figured
house.
that the
But
larger volumes will probably be coming from solar farms
Right.
and those kind of places. We just-
I can look into, they just built one in Myrtle Beach down on the south end near the airport, and I can find out what they did in terms of if the facility was to ever be shut down, what are the requirements for removing and disposing of the panels. I could do some follow-up research and
Because
provide
I
that.
think that's where we will see our biggest flux of somebody trying to get rid of them.
Are they building a big one?
Yeah, I mean, they build them all the time, yeah,
701?
yeah. I mean, there's one right down
How
the
big is
street.
that one, Steve?
Yeah.
Ain't that a big solar farm they're building on 701?
Yeah.
How many acres is
I
that?
don't know, brought up and on the acres.
Yeah, I went by the other day, they had silt fence up there, it looked huge.
They got one right there on 10th Avenue, out there. There's a solar farm.
I believe, yes, there are some panels right there in Tenth, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a board member on our Swan board that works for Santee Cooper. I can ask her for a contact and get some follow-up information for you.
Mr. Knight?
What we have been through on electronic for the last 20 years. Yeah. Now, when they start on solar panels, the lobbyists are gonna stretch out of that second floor Capitol building out, they'll be out the Strom Thurmond statue on the ground when you start talking about solar panels. But I think solar panels are gonna have to be done exactly the same way that we did push for electronic extended producer responsibility. If you sell them, you take them back.
You at least need to identify with contents.
I think that's the only thing you can, that's the only thing that we're gonna push for. And we will be talking with DHEC about this, and we will be talking with DHEC about tires in the future, so, we've got pretty good contact with DHEC now, so we will continue to work with them on it, but our unwritten policy has been, we don't take solar panels. We won't formally get the board to agree that that's our position at this point in time. Somebody will show up with a load, we'll say we can't take them, we'll show it to me, prove it to me. So we just want the board to realize where we are.
I think it's wise to get ahead of it before they get here with the load and get proactive rather than reactive. And I think the SWA and the board should be very, very careful about recommending what they do with it. Because I don't want that finger to come back and say, well, they said, carry it over here, send it over, and they suggested this place or that place. That is not our problem. That is their problem. They made the money off of it, they created it, let them worry about it. There are no more questions. Is there a motion that we accept staff's recommendation?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other conversation about this? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes unanimously, and I thank you. I think that is puts us in a very, very good place, as safe as we can get. Okay, back to Mr. Knight.
Next issue is, the Technical Advisory Council is getting ready to meet. They'll be meeting the 28th, 9 o'clock here. And I have taken the pleasure of putting in your packet on page 65, 66, 67, 68, a dateline of some of the TAC meetings of the last one that we put together. We don't have a permit that we're involved in right today, so maybe this one this year will go quicker than a year and a half. So, and they'll be meeting here. It's not mandatory that the board be here, but for information, you may want to attend and see how it goes. But there's a lot of meetings will have to take place between the first really meeting and the final resolution put together, signed by Overy County Council. Each city does a resolution. We have a policy and advisory council that will meet, and that's the chairman of county council and the mayors. So get ready for a lot of get-togethers and meetings, and most of the cities will request somebody to come and present to the city for the resolution, so we'll go through the process. That'll, meeting be, the 28th at 9 o'clock. I have one statement that's not on the agenda, it's a COVID statement. I read it, due to the increasing number of COVID infections, our occupational nurse has recommended that masks be worn during gatherings. This recommendation is not mandatory. In addition, social distance we consider 6 feet, and frequent hand washing is highly recommended also. So it looks like it's storming again with it. We've had a couple of people out, so just as I tell the people here, play pretty and be safe. If it goes to a mandatory, we'll certainly let you know.
Any questions, Mr. Knight? Now we'll move on to committee reports, operation and planning, Mr. Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a meeting on July the 13th, and I would like to ask Mr. Beswick if he would come up and address that to the full board for their recommendation.
We had an operation and planning committee meeting. I talked with Mr. Berry about getting one together. As we do the first of every budget year, we start getting our equipment bid for the year on pieces of equipment we know we gotta have, especially since some of us a year and a half out coming in. So we have to do it a little earlier than we normally do. As part of the process, even though we updated the numbers and increased them, there were some of them short. We had put a bid out for a finger screen. A finger screen is going to go in place of the trommel screen at the C&D recycling factory. Currently, we do about 9 tons an hour. This will allow us to get up to about 25 tons an hour, which will increase the amount we can put through that. And that, in order to do that, we needed an additional $100,000 on top of the budget to do it. We asked for committee and they approved for us to utilize the trommel screen that we're not going to buy this year to take the funds from. We have a trommel screen in the budget for $600,000, probably not going to be replaced for several years. So we have to utilize those funds rather than using that $1 million. We got some big projects. The project that we're most scared of, that we have, that we may need funds for, is the leachate tanks. We got that in the process now, but we got a meeting 2 in there, but if they get in there and find out that both of them's bad, it may take more than that meeting 2. So we didn't want to spend that money right up front, so we used the trommel screen money for the finger screen. We also put out bid for an overhead shoulder for the MRF. If y'all remember last year we put in about $150,000 for a shelter because we cannot run glass when it's raining. It shuts us down from running glass because the fine paper in the glass will turn to paste and it stops the machine up when it gets wet. So we wanted a shelter so that we could keep it dry, coming out of the building dry, and dry on the outside so we could keep up with the glass. And it causes less damage to the machine, better quality of glass. So we put in $150,000 last year, didn't have enough money. They told us it cost about $180-ish. With the new metal prices, we got the bids in, it was $231,000. So we put $200,000 in the budget for this year, so it was still $31,000 short. And we asked the committee and they approved for us to get $31,991 out of that $600,000 trommel screen money. Then we went to Baker Waste. We had a good year last year of putting new cardboard containers out. We put 57 new customers net, not gross, net. So we netted 57 new customers So we had the order containers was getting low. We had 20 on the yard that needed repairs. And so we said, well, let's say we're gonna have another good year, we do 47 this year. So we had, or we ordered, put in a bid to order 27 new containers, which will give us 47. And, price we paid a few years back, they estimated it's gonna cost around $1,200 to $1,300 a container. They came in before taxes and shipping at $1,881 when we bid them. So we didn't have enough money to buy them. And rather than trying to just lessen the amount we bought and not have any money at all and have no containers on the yard, we had to ask the board for some additional funds in order to do that. So we had to have $11,289, and that'll come out at $600,000 as well. We are going, even though we don't need them right now, we're going to order them because we're afraid that steel prices will change again, and they won't honor these prices, so we gotta get them in. And then we'll get one bunch of them sitting on the yard, but we felt like we really ain't got a choice.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
do you think the steel prices are going to be sticky or go up?
I have no idea. Market is so
There's
crazy.
no
right now.
confidence it'll reduce to where it was.
I don't think we'll ever see it back where it was. Yeah, anyhow. I just don't see fuel prices going down, or not fuel prices, but steel prices going down. I don't. I can say they will stabilize some, but I don't think going back to where we were.
So you don't see
That's
any
just, I'm
benefit
not
in
a comment,
postponing?
I'm just putting my personal opinion in it, but.
You think postponing won't increase the cost?
That's why I feel like we need to go ahead and don't take that chance. We also, put out a loader, and we were $3,000 short on the load, $3,454 short, on the budget, and, so we asked to take that money as well from that trauma screen. That'll leave about $350,000 left in that trauma screen, that's about total about $150,000. Use out that $600,000 trauma screen, and next year it'll be refunded.
It's early in the year to use that much of it.
It is, but we probably gonna be back. We got some more bids out right now. We're waiting on to come in. We hope we don't, but, there's a possibility we may be back to the committee again, asking again. But hopefully, what we're trying to do is get everything bid now, get it over with, because it's taking so long to get equipment. It's just taking so long to get equipment. And the committee approved those recommendations, and I don't need a motion by the board to do those, unless somebody's got questions.
I make a motion that we approve.
You make a motion, we approve it?
Yes,
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, passes unanimously.
We have one other thing on the Operations Planning Committee meeting. As y'all aware, we have some property up in the Green Sea area. And several years back, we decided rather than us going up there 2 or 3 times a year and keep it cut, keep it mowed down, that we would put it out to a farmer, let him farm it and keep it maintained. And that has worked really well for us. It went back out to bid again this year. Luckily, the same farmer got it. Mr. Squires Farms. Guys do a good job in that area. But what he's got is he's got a deer eating his crops up. And you can see on page 50 or 85, a picture of how they ate the crops up. Like they started on one end of the road and went to the other. They're eating crops, and they've asked to get a 30-day digger depredation permit. Basically what they'll do is, they do it for multiple farms, so it's not just for ours. They having problems with a lot of their farms. So to go to DNR and ask for the permit, it's good for 30 days, and they can go out and take them off the property. And because we have the no hunting rule, even though I feel like he has leased the coal farm, he's got some say in it. He came back to us and said, y'all are property owners, DNR will give us the permit without y'all. He's asked us to give permission so he can give DNR to go ahead and allow him to get the permit. And I'll really, motion from the board to approve that.
I move that we give the Squires Brothers Farms permission to contact DNR and get the permit.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Not all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Being none, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mark.
I think one thing I forgot to mention during my, presentation was it was started waste characterization study the week of August 8th. So I want to make everybody aware of that.
Let me mention one thing about the property, Green Sea. The property was purchased a few years back. Storm debris, if in fact we needed it, and we have used that site in the past. The layout allows us to burn there, and I think the state used it. So that's the reason we have the property. The county's got a fire station there in Gratiot Bay, so, and the deal we have with the farmers, if we have a hurricane today and we need the property tomorrow, we can take the property and utilize it. And they understand that the crop will be covered up, wouldn't be any, thing that everybody's agreed to that. So the property has been used before, and, it's good to have the property in case we need it. So I want to make that point again to the board.
Okay. We'll move on to old business, which we have none. So we'll move to new business. And the first thing is the committee appointments. Pass those that way, pass those that way if you would, please. Will be your new committee appointments. Questions on that? Next is roundtable discussion. Does anyone have anything they wish to bring? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I received the solid waste demographic and grocery report. And what I'd like to ask Mr. Knight to do is distribute this report to the rest of the committee. And I would ask that our next board meeting that we place this on executive session for discussion, since there is sensitive personnel matters in this. I think it would be better discussed in executive session.
Yes, sir.
And I'd like for the rest of the board members to have this report so that we'll all be seeing and talking about the same issue.
Yes, sir. Anything else from roundtable? There is no. The next is our beloved leaders evaluation. Mr. Knight, if you would pass those two down. And I would ask that you complete complete this and get it back to me by the 12th, if you would, please. That will give me time to evaluate it, compile the information, and have it ready for the next board meeting. Do not get it back, I will use my discretion whether you give him all zeros or 10.
You can go by default.
All right, very good. We do have a need for an executive session today to discuss a contractual matter, and I would accept a motion to go there.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We will briefly be in executive session. Thank you, John. Out of executive session,
So
So
moved.
moved.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The executive session was over a contractual matter, there was no votes taken, there were no motions made. And I believe that is the end of our agenda for today. With nothing further.
I think you need a motion to come out of executive session.
We did
You didn't get it.
didn't.
Where was that?
I know, but I don't want to tell that. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Not need a second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.